Welcome to the Visionary Voices and Insights podcast, where we explore the world of business through the eyes of leaders, founders, and innovators. Whether you're just starting out or scaling up, we've got the insights and the stories to inspire your journey. On this episode of Visionary Voices, we are speaking to Ali. In 5 years, he has managed upwards of £20 million in advertising budget at the age of just 22. Working his way up the corporate ladder from entry-level marketing role to head of paid media. Welcome to the show, Ali.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So you worked your way up the corporate ladder very quickly and managed 20 million in paid advertising budget at the age of just 22. But how did you get started in marketing and what has that journey been like?
Okay, so I'll take you back to like the very, very beginning, right? It was me, kid from Manchester, was at Manchester College. I did 3 A-levels in maths, psychology and business. I got C, D, E in my A-levels, right, which is terrible grades. And I wanted to do, I'd heard, right, like through the grapevine that, marketing is the future. I was like, cool, I want to do a marketing degree. And I wanted to get a degree apprenticeship. Now, in order to get a degree apprenticeship, you had to have BBC as your grade. So I didn't qualify because of my grades was shit, basically. So I was like, oh man, okay, I'll do a foundation year at a company. I found this opportunity. It was a foundation year at a company. You do 1 year and then you can move on and like do a degree apprenticeship after you do your foundation level apprenticeship. And like it gave me enough points, whatever, in order to be eligible. So I was like, cool. That's how I found this apprenticeship at this company. I started doing that. Like I said, I was in the affiliate team, or I wanted to go into paid media team, ended up being in the affiliate team, started doing those Facebook ads, moved over onto B2B, started looking after like the big budgets in B2B to the point where I started actually looking after like the majority of all the paid marketing that was B2B related that sat under like that company was basically like an umbrella company that had multiple companies underneath it. Every B2B company that was doing any type of paid ads work, I had my eyes on and was helping. So that was stuff in like environmental tech in terms of like fraud prevention, e-commerce fulfillment, web hosting, all sorts, right? And during that time as well, I actually did start doing a degree apprenticeship in digital marketing.
Right, okay.
But a year into that apprenticeship, I found that I was like in the thick of it, working with SLT, coming up with like cool marketing campaigns, running paid ads, getting results, like really like actually doing like really cool work, right? And then I'd go on my uni day and like my uni guys would be like, right, cool, today like we're gonna make a GIF or like we're gonna like make a mood board. And I was like, bro, what am I doing here?
I want to be in it.
Exactly.
Doing it.
I was like, there's nothing about this that is actual marketing, like actual digital marketing. Nothing about it was actual digital marketing because I was in the thick of it, so I knew. So I was a student rep for my cohort, and I remember getting on like a Zoom call with the university and just like going sick at them, like, what is this? What is this course that you're teaching? Calling it digital marketing. Like for my cohort, it's finished, but like at least for the next cohort, like you need to amend this course material because it's so far away from what the truth of it is. I don't know who built it. Gave them a proper hard time, and they like were responsive. They listened and stuff. But like a year onto it, I was like to the point where like now, like there was talks of like team members and like I was really like at like the top and like leading strategy across like so many different brands on the paid ad side that I was just like, it just didn't make any sense. So I dropped out of that course. I went all in, continued to go all in with the paid ads that I was doing. And I stayed at that company that I joined for 3.5 years. After that, I left and because I wanted to specialize in doing SaaS marketing and only doing marketing for software companies. So I left and I joined a B2B agency, again, based in Manchester, as their like paid media lead. And I was also their like internal marketing manager. So in charge of growing that agency's pipeline, working with like software companies and like another like really, really big names. Stayed there for about a year and then left and joined a BPO company doing like high level D2C lead gen in broadband, insurance, car finance and all these different sectors. managing like a multi seven-figure advertising budget. So like like that's basically the entire process. And in between that, I got like pretty good at understanding this holistic marketing approach. So I started doing growth strategy plans for software businesses. We had like a 5-step growth process that involved data and tracking, website, so CRO, traffic sources, which obviously is including ads, nurture and reactivation through email, and then sales pipeline optimization. So taking their entire sales pipeline and optimizing it in any way that doesn't fall under those previous 4 stages or packages.
Right.
And like I was doing that job on the side, busy, and
no, interesting. It's interesting you said about the degree apprenticeship, where I feel like for a majority of industries, being in the business is so much more valuable than getting a degree in the business. And it's not that I'm anti-university. It's more of, for a majority of people, I'm anti-university. Like, it's great, obviously, for medicine, for like dentistry.
Yeah.
That's great. But when it comes to like marketing, business, those types of industries, you learn more by doing the thing than just sitting in a classroom, not really learning the real thing.
Yeah, honestly, like the fact that I went all in corporate from the beginning has allowed me to because like now look, I got mates that are just coming out of uni now, just getting their first jobs, and I'm on like 5 years corporate experience, and they're like just beginning their first.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And they've never actually ran, if they're coming out of marketing, they've never ran a campaign. They don't actually understand what it's about. Sure, you have the theory, but you need to have the real life experience, because typically the theory and the real life experience is there's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah, I remember speaking to my mate once, about work, and I was like to him, "Oh, bro, we're doing X, Y, Z, and this and that. There was this thing that happened at work, and it was like this and that." And he's like, "Bro," he's like so mad because I'm studying business at uni, and he's like, "All of these things you're talking about, like, we learn them as like frameworks, but like you're actually learning them and stuff." But it's like, like I'm not anti-university. I've got mates that stayed on that degree apprenticeship, and like they are like they're doing fine and stuff. But like for me, like for rapid scale, it just didn't make sense. But like the thing is that scaling can happen so quick that it's like you can go to uni, come out, land a really good opportunity, smash it, and scale in 1 year much further than I've scaled in 5. So it's like it isn't like responsive to or like respective as to like how much you or how quick you're going to scale, because like there's a lot of luck involved in all of this stuff and timing and whatnot. Sure. So it's like different strokes for different folks, but for me it just wasn't it. And like I feel at like quite ahead at this stage compared to like a lot of the colleagues of mine that I work with that are like at the same level of me, who are like 30 plus. And like I have to credit the fact that I went all in and focused in and didn't go to uni as like a factor that allowed me to get there.
So, but how did you work up the corporate ladder to get to the position you're at now? Because a lot of people have started where you've started, but very few actually end up to those high level positions in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, so I'd say that the main thing that allowed me to progress in my career was specializing from the beginning. So when I went for my interview for the apprenticeship, I already knew that there are multiple disciplines within marketing, and I felt that paid advertising was a discipline that was suited to my personality, and from my research, it was one of the higher paying marketing disciplines. So I was aware of the path that I wanted to go down from the beginning. And I think that understanding that path was really what allowed me to move forward, because every time an opportunity arose that was more aligned with what my initial goal was, I was able to spot it and then like make moves and plays in order to like execute on it and make that opportunity into something tangible. Yeah. So an example of spotting opportunities, which I'll tell you, was when I joined the company that I initially joined. I was doing my marketing apprenticeship. I joined with the intention of being sat under the paid media team and learning paid media from the beginning. my manager was the head of paid media at the time, but I joined back end of October, and by March he had decided to move on and leave the company. So that left me sat under the affiliate team and doing affiliate marketing through Awin, etc. And that wasn't like where I thought I would have been at the time. And it isn't really like what I saw myself doing long term. But whilst I was there, there was another person who was a manager of another team, more on the B2B side of things, that offered me the opportunity to start running Facebook ads for that brand alongside doing the affiliate work that I was doing in the affiliate team. And I grasped that opportunity. I was able to deliver good results for the brand that I was working with on that side through the Facebook ads. And that led me to then joining the B2B and paid media team and heading that up full time. So I think that that's like a good example of understanding where I wanted to go. And even though I wasn't in or specializing in the skill set that I wanted to, seeing an opportunity, grasping it, executing on it, which then led to a more clear path that I could go down.
Yeah, so you had that clarity basically on where you wanted to go. And so because of that, you could spot the opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities when they came up.
Yeah.
So if someone is in that junior position, are there any lessons you would give them, to help them climb that corporate ladder? You mentioned about clarity, which is obviously very important in spotting those opportunities, but is there anything else within that in terms of the actual corporate experience and how to work your way up in it?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the corporate world, having a good manager is more important than like being in a great company. So like I've been really lucky and had some like amazing managers in my time, and I've also had managers that like there was like some friction with.
Yeah.
But I think overall, if you have somebody that likes you and that wants to help you achieve, then that really puts you in a great position. Making it clear to the management what you want to achieve. So even I think like so many young people now struggle with like what they want to do and where they want to go. I think like everybody says like, oh, find your passion. And then if your passion is your work, then you'll never have to work a day in your life. I think you have to find your passion in your work instead of finding your work in your passion. And for example, like looking at marketing, paid marketing, it can be looked at in such a negative light. It can be viewed as fueling capitalism, consumerism, etc. Now, viewing it like that doesn't serve me in any way. And if you want to go ahead in marketing, it doesn't serve you anyway, although an argument could be made for it. The way that I like to see it is I get a lot of fulfillment, and I think a lot of people do, from helping other people. So I see marketing, paid ads, all marketing and sales related skills as opportunities to help business owners, to help them grow, to help them achieve what they want to achieve. So just by framing digital marketing and using that as a vessel to help other people and adopting that as my mindset, it allows me to have a lot more passion in the things that I'm doing. So the advice that I'd give to people is understand what the intrinsic things are that really make you feel good, and then see how you can align the work opportunities that are in front of you within those frameworks.
Yeah. No, that's very good. That's very good. I don't think many people think of it like that. They're always thinking, do I enjoy this specific technical thing that I'm doing right now? But if you zoom out and think about who you want to be, what you want to be doing, and as you mentioned, helping people, and you managed to relate that to the job you were doing, and then you found that passion in that work, I think that's very powerful. I guess when you've grown that quickly, over the last few years, what challenges have you had doing that? Like, there's going to be growing pains of some nature. I guess what were your biggest ones over that period of time?
So you make so many mistakes, honestly. Like I'll tell you one story about, I was managing a paid ads budget for a company, and bear in mind, I'm like 18, 19 years old. I'm fresh. I'm still like trying to figure things out. And I got thrown into the deep end, got given a multi 6-figure annual budget, just me managing it. and I had to basically drive huge pipeline growth for this business. And it was just me, 19-year-old kid, fresh. And the only reason I got that opportunity was based off that good performance on the Facebook ads that I just mentioned before. And I spent £100,000 in the wrong location. So we were only targeting United States, UK, English-speaking countries, and all the Google Ads guys out there will laugh at this mistake because it's like a telltale sign of when we run audits whether an account's being managed properly. But there's a setting called presence and interest inside Google Ads campaigns, and if you don't change that to just presence, then you get a lot of traffic from Southeast Asia and like VPN traffic, etc. So yeah, I ended up spending 100 grand in India and Pakistan when we were only looking for United States and UK clients. So
Yeah.
that's like was a huge mistake. That was probably like one of the biggest I've ever made. But like it's full of them. Like you find mistakes not just in your own technical ability. You find like mistakes in the way that you communicate with management, the way you communicate with your team. I think like going into a corporate world at 18 years old, fresh out of college, like where I'd been like dossing around and like not really had any structure to my life properly. Like if you get thrown into the deep end with something like that, like you make so many mistakes in the beginning, but because you're 18, 19, people expect it out of you, which allows like quite a safe environment to make mistakes, especially if you're at a good company. So don't be afraid to make them, basically. And I've made my fair share, and I still make them today. So
Yeah, for sure. I guess it goes to show when you are getting into the corporate world is make sure the company that you're with is a good company and they let you have those, mistakes. I remember when I started in corporate, I mean, the only year I did in corporate, when I was 18, 19 as well, I went in and they gave me a load of tasks to do within accountancy, and like I messed up like the first task they gave me, like completely messed it up. But they weren't supportive of that mistake, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have that opportunity to make mistakes and learn because it was very much frowned upon. So that kind of goes to show when you're with a company that isn't very good, how that can affect your growth. So I guess moving on to the fact that, you are a high achiever, just, the way you are naturally. I mean, you've worked up very well in this corporate game. But who or what has influenced your life to become that high achiever? Has there been any person, anything there to push you onto that path?
Do you know what it was? Is that I always thought to myself, when I was a kid, the one thing I wanted to be was a footballer. I wanted to play for Man United, and I genuinely thought I was going to be a footballer when I was a kid, but I was actually like not very good at football, surprisingly. So I always wanted to be like a footballer, but I knew I couldn't be the best at that. Now, when I joined marketing, I knew, especially as I started to get good at it, that there was real opportunity there and that I'd probably be doing this for the next 10, 15 years of my life. And I thought to myself, what is the point of doing something if I'm not going to be the best at it, or at least try to be the best? So that's the mindset that I adopted, and like understanding that in order to be the best, you have to outwork everybody else, and you have to make the right moves, and you have to be clever and plan ahead and think long term. Like that's kind of what pushed me, is that I genuinely want to be the best because I'm sacrificing my youth, all my years and all my time into this one discipline. So what is the point of doing that if I'm not trying to at least be the best in it? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sacrificing everything. Like if time is the most valuable asset that you've got, then that is the biggest thing that I'm putting into this.
Yeah.
So I'd want to get the highest return on investment on the time that I'm putting in, which is to be the best. So
yeah. That's a very logical way of thinking through things, which I think when you're younger, you don't really think of those things. So the fact that you had that mindset going into the role that you were in, obviously goes to show it works because of the fact that you got to the point that you're at. So is there any skills or traits that you think's overlooked but has been really crucial to your success?
Do you know what it is? Is that although I'm specialized in paid ads, the reason why I've been able to scale up, like, just my earning capacity in general, whether it's from a corporate role or from any other work that I do, is my my intention of learning other disciplines outside of the one I'm specialized in. So I have a friend of mine, he called Thomas. He says it all the time in his newsletter. He's at a PPC newsletter. He's a great guy in PPC. Which is like, if you want to become the best at PPC or like paid ads in general, then like having a good understanding of the other marketing disciplines will level you up so much more. So it's like my quest for knowledge that led me down the route of understanding email marketing and paid social and organic and website CRO, and then understanding different systems, whether it's HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive, Airtable, Active Campaign, and really like nosediving into trying to learn everything holistically, and then having like a good base of knowledge across the board, whether it came into building business systems, traffic sources, client acquisitions across different industries. It was a never-ending quest for information. And I think like the big turning point for me was like 3.5 years, 4 years into my career. And they say that the moment you actually know something is when you realize how little you know. And there was a point where, because like up until that, I thought, man, I'm the guy, man. I'm like, I'm here, I'm doing this paid ad stuff. Like I know Google ads like the back of my hand, this, that, whatever. I know marketing inside and out. And then like I got put into like more senior positions and I was speaking with bigger companies and CEOs and more C-suite level. And I realized that, wait a second, like I've been doing this for years and I still have barely even scratched the surface. And that was like the big realization. So definitely like being intentful and being aggressive with the information that you acquire and acquiring as much of it as you possibly can, collecting experience, a wide net of experience from the get-go, because that is your foundation. So the wider your foundation is built, the higher you can end up building up. I'd say like those are two definitely like some of the things.
Yeah, I think when it comes to business growth, some people think it's maybe just one thing they need to change, but realistically, there's so many systems that need to work together in order to see that business growth, that when you have that foundation, that holistic approach to things, that you can spot, okay, we need to do this in order to see the results. You can start throwing money into ads, but if something as simple as your landing page isn't optimized correctly, you're getting all that traffic but no leads.
100%.
And then if you have no sales process to work those leads, then you're not making any revenue. And so it goes one by one, and you need to understand how the systems work. Maybe not to the deepest level as possible, but at least have that foundational knowledge so you can understand, okay, if this is happening, then we need to change this. And that's the way you actually get results, right?
Exactly, bro. Exactly. It's like you are specialized to run ads because you want your ads to make the client money or to make your business money or whatever it is. But it's like ads is such a small part in the whole process of making money.
Yeah.
So it's like you learn ads because you think like, okay, that's going to make money. But then you go into lead gen and it's like, if you're doing e-commerce, you put money in and you get money out in terms of direct sales, right? It's like you start doing lead gen and then there's so many variables to take into consideration. It becomes much more complicated process, especially if you're dealing with B2B and long sales cycles and enterprise level deals and contracts and whatever it may be. So like I'd say that me moving away from initially starting in e-commerce marketing to then going further and deeper into lead gen forced me to learn more things that I wouldn't have had to learn previously. And that was just like the whole like specialization into lead gen just came like off of what opportunities were in front of me. It was pretty luck based, to be honest. Yeah, like that's what was just there, and I kind of just picked it up and ran with it. So so yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So when it comes to e-com versus lead gen, I guess which one do you prefer and why is it? I mean, I know you're in lead gen now, but what are the things that you liked about e-com, what you didn't like about e-com when it comes to the advertising side of things?
So it's a good question. So e-commerce marketing is like very like direct response in terms of you run your campaigns, you spend, let's say £10,000 and you run that like a 3-4 ROAS, you'll get £40,000 back. Your conversion value is shown inside your ad platform, and like it becomes a lot easier to track in terms of performance, right? Now people use like third-party tracking tools in order to like really understand things like triple whale, things like Hyros, but all in all, it's like money in, money out. When it comes to lead gen, now it depends if you're doing local service ads, if you're doing leads, what kind of company you're doing lead gen for. But it's like usually you generate the lead and then there is some sort of delay or sales cycle before that lead's getting sold. Now, the company that I work at, the way that they do it is they have BPO. So they generate the lead and then within like 10 minutes of the lead being generated, somebody's on the phone trying to call them and sell them. So that sales cycle is like very short. It's a D2C offer in broadband. So like that's like an example of a short sales cycle, but it's lead gen. Then on the other side of it, if you're selling a web hosting infrastructure or server space in a data center in Amsterdam to like a big company that is you're looking at a 250K per year contract that might take 8 months to close. That lead gets generated in 8 months or at the start of 8 months, and then it gets picked up by SDR. SDR qualifies it. They might put it into closers. Closers start building a proposal. They go back and forth in terms of what the terms of the proposal are going to be and the contract terms, negotiate. Someone goes on holiday, this, that, whatever. And like before you know it, everything's dragged out. So the key difference is the time it takes to sell between e-commerce marketing and lead gen. When you do e-commerce, if you can get ROAS in the beginning, great. Even if you can't, you have a good upsell flow in the back end. You can still retain a high lifetime value out of that customer and like recoup the initial principal investment into the advertising on the front end. Whereas in lead gen, you need to be aware of these sales cycles, because if you're taking 8 to 12 months to close something that's worth 300 grand and you're putting 10 grand a month into ads, yes, you might spend 120 grand and get 300 grand back, but how does that affect your short-term cash flow?
Yes.
So like you need to like remain very aware of the finances of your business and keep that in mind whenever you're spending, and make sure that when you're planning for advertising spend, worst case scenario, you still remain net positive. If you can ensure that, then you've kind of got a bit of a foolproof advertising system with minimal risk, and then you can execute on it with a bit more confidence that like everything isn't relying on the performance of one thing.
It ties back to what we were saying before, where marketing is a bunch of different systems working together, and that's even more prevalent within lead gen itself. As you mentioned, you got sales reps, you got closers, you got this, you got that. And so make sure everything's working together. And so I guess the reason why you might like it more is because you have that foundation on all these different systems, that when you go into a lead gen business, you can be like, okay, we've got the ads running, we're getting lead flow, but now what else do we need to change in order to drive that actual growth and actual revenue?
100% correct.
So I hope you're enjoying this episode of Visionary Voices. Now, if you're like me and you love to listen to podcasts, but you struggle to remember or even retain the information that's provided to you, then I've actually created a webpage with all of the actionable insights, the lessons, and everything else in between, all timestamped, ready for you to go for this episode. Now, you can get access to this by just connecting with me on LinkedIn, so I can send you over the link to the page. So if you open up LinkedIn and search in my name, Akil Jannati, which is spelt AQIL space JANNATY. Send me a message, connect with me, and I will send you over that webpage. So I guess that ties in nicely with how you handle these big clients, these big enterprise businesses versus the smaller budgets, the smaller clients. I guess what's the difference between those two clients, like the behavioral aspect of it? Because from my experience working with the local businesses with smaller budget, it can be more difficult overall. But how does that compare to the enterprise companies when they're so complex and they have so many different departments? How does that work?
So when it comes to big budgets versus small budgets, it's funny because it doesn't also depend on just how big the budget is that the client is running with. It also depends on how seasoned their ad account is. So if you've got a client that's been spending 200 grand, 250 grand a month for over a year, and that ad account is seasoned to the point where the key performance and the performance anchor campaigns within that ad account are already like solidified. So the actual day-to-day management of it usually just comes down to tweaks unless there's any big changes in strategy. So the management, I'd say, of the bigger accounts can be easier than the smaller accounts. When an account has just been created, it's in inception. There's not necessarily like product market fit that's already been proven for that business. It can be quite difficult because you have to test a lot of things. So like the whole key with advertising is that it's just a lot of trial and error. And the more you experience, the more things you try and the more things that fail, which saves you from trying them again next time, which then improves your skill set. So when you've got a small budget, you have to think about, right, okay, how do I get the most information out of this small budget? And I think that's what separates good advertisers from bad advertisers. So like the actual day-to-day running or setting up of campaigns in Ads Manager now with like the tutorials that are in there already from the ad platform, it's not hard.
Yeah.
Anybody can follow it, but understanding how to analyze the data and make optimizations and inferences of very small data sets based on experience is what people are paying the premium for.
Yeah.
Is to scale quickly and lose less money. And that's really where somebody with expertise, when managing a smaller budget and a smaller campaign, can really show off their expertise. Because if it takes one person £1,000 to test two things, and it takes another person £1,000 to test 10 things, then the person that's testing 10 things with £1,000 is going to find something scalable and scale that campaign so much quicker than the other person. And like that's kind of what it boils down to. They're operating at 5x the efficiency ratio of the other person. So to answer your question, the bigger campaigns, it's more about small tweaks, but when you have the bigger campaigns, small fluctuations make a big difference. If you're a campaign running £1 million a month and you have a 5% fluctuation, it's 50 grand, right? Whereas if you got £3 a month and you have a 5% fluctuation, it's £150. So like the small tweaks and the small changes make a big difference when the budgets are higher. And when it's a smaller campaign, you can be more aggressive with your testing and more aggressive with your failing because the stakes are lower. So that's what I'd say the main differences are.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like what you said about the expertise being in actually analyzing that data, because as you said, it's getting so easy to actually launch ads. I think 5 years ago, setting up the campaign, was the expertise was there, but now it's so much easier to just launch ads. But the next thing in terms of where your expertise needs to be is how you actually look at the data and then make those changes.
Exactly.
So you might be able to launch ads, but if you can't look at the data and be like, hey, we need to change this and this, then you won't actually see the results that you want to see.
Exactly.
So in the realm of digital marketing, what's one skill or area that you initially underestimated but later found out to be incredibly valuable? Because we spoke about data. Is that one of them?
It probably is, yeah. So data and tracking I've found to be so much more important than what I gave it credit to in the beginning. So everybody needs to make it in today's world, right? Business world, online world. You need to let the data decide things. Everybody's talking about data-driven decisions. So many marketing agencies talk about it. We only make decisions off the data. It's the data. But it's like having that data there is not as easy as it sounds, especially again, like coming back to the lead gen thing. Talking about complicated sales cycle, a mix of quantitative data around like actual metrics, like close rate, qualifying rate, whatever it may be, and then qualitative data around like how the salesperson felt going into that call, the emotional sentiment around like how they felt the prospect was, and getting all of that data together, compiling it, and then presenting it in a way which is easily digestible for senior management to then use that to make decisions off the back of, is like something that so many businesses struggle with, like in today's day and age. And if you can like be the person that knows where to find the data, how to track it, and then how to present it in a way that the senior management that is a huge opportunity. And it's like, it's something that even the best of the best aren't doing properly. Like, I remember working at a very, very big company. Like they were doing a lot of money in revenue and they had huge data problems. They couldn't track things properly. It was so hard for them to understand where things were coming from. And this was like a very, very established company. And like, yeah, like even at their level, they were struggling with data. So like, yeah, data dashboarding and reporting, like definitely don't overlook it. And if you can get good at it, there's a lot of money in it. So
Yeah. So I guess if you are, someone starting out in the corporate world within marketing, if you can learn that skill of how to look at data, how to manage data, how to track data as well,
yeah,
then that will obviously help you advance because you'll be able to get better results and you can advance your
100%,
career even quicker.
100%, 100%. It's not just about being able to like build dashboards. It's about understanding the people that are going to be looking at those dashboards and understanding how they want to see the data.
Yeah.
Right? Because they need to use it in order to make decisions, and everybody digests information differently.
Yeah.
So an example is I worked with a business that had appointment setters, SDRs, closers, right? I knew that there were so many different metrics we could track for each one of those roles, right? Appointment setters, you could track number of meeting calendars or booking links sent, number of conversations that they've had, etc., etc. Same with like the closers. You could track like 10 metrics per employee. And it's like, if I like tracking all of that is great, but how does that like that's just going to have the business owner just stuck in a sea full of data and a sea full of metrics, right?
And they'll be overwhelmed with all this data.
Exactly. So something that you could do is that you could build a system that takes that the senior management can put in a benchmark in terms of what they want the performance to be, and you can create an efficiency ratio based out of the aggregate of all of those different metrics.
Right.
So then it's a single score, might be like between 0 and 1, 1 being most efficient, 0 being not efficient. And the senior management can come and be like, right, okay, our appointment setting team is operating at a 0.7. If we want to make 500K rev this quarter, then we need to push them up to a 0.9. Where are the pitfalls? Look at it. Like that's so much of an easy, if you can boil everything down into one metric, an aggregate of the averages of like the sea of metrics, that makes it so much easier to use and automatically see. It also makes it easier for team management.
Right.
So it's like, if like the appointment setter feels like they're doing really, really well, the closer feels like they're doing really, really well, but then you can see that their efficiency ratio is at like a 0.3. Then it's like, you don't even need to come at, there's no need for any conflict.
Yeah.
You can just show them the data and be like, look, here's your efficiency ratio, it's at a 0.3. Then they're going to start taking responsibility, making moves to improve that. So like that's like I'd say a good example of exactly like the power of data and having it there can do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I guess it also links back to, if you want to start getting better results, there could be some low-hanging fruit there, which is very easy to change. If you're seeing 10 different data points and the efficiency is down on one of them, but that one is so easy to fix that, maybe it's even an automated thing you could set up for the sales reps or something like that, then you could implement that one thing and then, get really, really good results off just back of that one little change that you made, which is just a low-hanging fruit one. It's nothing major.
100%, yeah.
So I guess getting more granular, we spoke about PPC. I guess for everyone who doesn't know what PPC is, I guess what is it, and like how does it work and things like that?
Yeah. So PPC stands for pay-per-click, and it is in reference to the way that you are billed on search engines. So you pay a premium or a cost for every click on your ad. So that model of advertising is called PPC, and it stands for pay-per-click. So that's like your Google advertising, Bing advertising. Google is the main one, paid search. And the way that it works is that you target keywords. So you input keywords with different match types as to something that you want to target for your brand. Let's say running shoes. So I'm going to say, right, okay, anytime somebody in the UK searches running shoes, I want my ad to show up, and I'm prepared to pay £3 for every click on my ad. That's the bid that I've set. Then when somebody searches running shoes, an auction happens, and then whoever is bidding the most aggressively and also is the most relevant to that search term in terms of like what is on their landing page and their ad, etc., will then like rank based on the auction. So like the higher the bids, the higher you're going to rank, the more you are going to rank.
Yeah.
But obviously then the higher you pay per click, and that is PPC, like in a nutshell.
Yeah. So I guess who's it for? Like, what type of businesses work well with PPC? Because a lot of businesses, they don't know what advertising to do. Is it Facebook ads? Is it TikTok? Is it Google? Like, how do you decide for the business what makes the most sense for them?
Yeah, so that's a funny one. So realistically, everybody's target market is out there, like on every platform to a certain degree, right? So you just kind of have to understand the differences between each platform in terms of what they actually provide to the business. So like, for example, Google, you can filter by intent, right? So you do it by keywords. So your filtering criteria and your targeting criteria is based on the intent of somebody searching a certain keyword.
Right.
Now, when you target or use paid social, whether that's Facebook or TikTok, your targeting is now based on interest and demographics, right? So it's less intent focused and it's more demographic focused. So like people use TikTok and paid social as conversion tools as well, but the reach that they can get through paid social for the cost is wider. And then when it comes onto Google, you can be a lot more targeted with who you want to actually show your ads to, which is why like Google PPC is usually a little bit more expensive, especially like the cost per clicks, the CPCs that you're paying, and the CPMs that you're paying on Google are usually at a premium compared to what you're paying on paid social. So to answer your question, it all depends on what the business strategy is. Right. So if your business strategy is, I really, really have to sell this certain type of product because I've got an overstock of it, then you might go like very deep into Google. Whereas if you say like, right, okay, I want to like build brand awareness, for example, then you might go on paid social and run a wide awareness campaign or traffic campaign, and you can split it out like that. But it really depends. You can use both channels for conversion and awareness, but you just have to be aware of how you're targeting and the premiums that you're paying and for what reason.
Yeah. So if you're using that omni-channel approach, it goes back to what we said before about data and tracking.
Yeah.
If you can track, you can see, okay, they clicked through these ads on Facebook and Instagram first, and then they went into search on Google, and that's where the conversion actually happened. You can track back to actually Facebook or TikTok or whatever being the initial one to get them to move to Google.
Exactly.
And if you just turn off Facebook and Instagram, you won't then get that Google one.
Yeah.
Data is king in that. I guess for B2B companies, because that's more what you specialize in now and what you enjoy doing, what platform works for them? Does Google Ads work really well for B2B? If so, what lead costs? Because if it's a very niche B2B company, surely your lead costs are going to be really high. Like, how do you get around that, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So with B2B, with my experience, there's been less paid social. So people in, especially like the high ticket B2B space, aren't using Facebook and TikTok for lead gen in the beginning. I have seen businesses use it for remarketing in the middle of the funnel. And I have seen them use LinkedIn as a paid social tool, but just not Facebook and TikTok for top of funnel and for lead acquisition. Google definitely works. So Google has been working for B2B companies for years. So everybody's been marketing on there. So I definitely say, and I've got a lot of experience running Google Ads for B2B companies, and it's worked a treat. In terms of lead costs, so it really depends on what kind of lead you want. If you want somebody qualified, booked in, speaking to your sales team, you're going to pay a lot more for that than if you want somebody's name and email address because they downloaded an ebook on your website. So the type of lead that you want to generate determines the cost that you have to pay. Ideally, you want your cost per acquisition to be as high as it possibly can be. In terms of, if you are the business owner, you want to be able to afford to acquire a customer at the highest cost and still remain profitable. And then as an advertiser, you want to try and bring that cost per acquisition down as much as you can so that you retain as much profit as you can on the back end for the business owner.
Yeah.
So Like I've run campaigns for a company that was very, very established in the beauty sector. So they ran a beauty report as an ebook, right? Previously, they were running just bottom of funnel conversions. They were just trying to like get people to like fill in like a contact form, a very long contact form with like quite poor UX. Switched the strategy into trying to run downloads for a beauty report ebook as like a very like respected person in the beauty sector or a company in the beauty sector. And it worked a treat. £2 cost per lead we were seeing on that. Whereas like I've seen it on the other side of the spectrum, running ads trying to get people booked in for sales calls, and it's costing £500 per call. So like it really depends on what type of lead you're going for, whereabouts in the buying journey you're trying to capture that demand. These are all the things that influence lead cost as well. And then also like how good is the offer that you're selling for that person? Like, is the ebook that you're trying to get them to download even valuable to them?
Yeah.
Is the call that you're going to get them on even valuable to them? Even if it is, are you conveying that value properly on your landing page and your ad copy? All of these things influence lead cost. Yeah. So when I do a strategy for a B2B company, I always think first it boils down to understanding the target persona and the ICP, ideal customer profile, as much as you possibly can, to the point where I always say this to people, which is like the market research you do preliminary to running any type of advertising or spending a penny on the advertising platform is the backbone in which all of your advertising is based off. So if you spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks doing that properly, 8-hour days, really understanding the target market, the pain points, the hopes and dreams, the barriers and uncertainties, coming up with clever messaging related to those things that I just mentioned. And then you use that as the backbone that you develop all of your marketing off the back of, whether it's email, organic, paid. Makes it very hard to deviate away from what the goal is and who we're trying to acquire.
Yeah.
So that's super important for when starting a B2B strategy. And then, like working out the financials, but like doing the market research and stuff, is super, super important.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. The ICP research is definitely a very important factor that is missed by a lot of companies, even just within their business. You know, it's good to nail down, okay, who are you trying to target? But a lot of people don't have that research done. I mean, that's actually something that you taught me a couple of years ago now. You know, when I was going into campaigns and I was just kind of running it, just what I thought. And then you're like, no, like look at this. And it's, you know, it's like a 10-page, 15-page document of the research that you would do. And it's very, very extensive to the point where it's like, you know exactly the persona that you're trying to go after. And when you know who you're going to go after, then, as you said, you can tailor the messaging, you can tailor the ads, you can tailor the landing page, tailor the offer to that specific person. So, yeah, I think every business needs to do that exercise regularly as well, because you probably have more than one ICP that you could target. But every like quarter or every month or every week or whatever, going through that process again and updating it, making sure it's valid, and seeing what results you're getting from your ads is making sense with that hypothesis that you created for your ICP.
Yeah, and like in order to determine your ICP, if you're not sure about it, is that you should just look at the last year of business and understand, categorize where you made the most money off what kind of customer and try and get more of them.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Simple. Yeah. Logical. I guess, what do you do if it's a new business and so they know roughly who they want to target, but how do you do that ICP research then if you don't have that previous data?
You have to just go all in into what makes the most sense. Understand like what your competitors are doing, who the big competitors are in the space, and who are they targeting. You've got Facebook ad library, you've got TikTok ad library. Like you can see and funnel hack competitors, the biggest guys in the space. All the data is there, and then you can just take their funnel, see where you think they're missing out on, adjust it to your ideal customer profile and run it. And a lot of the time that works really well. It's just like advertising, business, all of these things are trodden paths. It's just about like utilizing the best strategies out there and implementing them and executing them in a good time frame.
Yeah, sure. So I guess coming back to, you know, PPC and just general paid marketing, if someone doesn't have a big budget, so they just started a business, or maybe it's a smaller local business or something, if you don't have a big budget, then how do you get around that with those constraints? Because it's very difficult, as you mentioned, to test things if you don't have a big budget. So what would you recommend to companies if the budget is very limited for paid marketing?
Honestly, if they're a new business and they've got a low budget, there are so many different and better places to spend money than on paid advertising, which is so counterintuitive as the paid ads guy. But the truth of it is that when you pay money on paid advertising, that money goes in Google's pocket, in Facebook's pocket, in TikTok's pocket. If you got $2,000 and you spend $2,000, that you are not getting that $2,000 back. But if you spend $2,000 investing into content, building organic channels, you can invest that and gain a business asset that will stay with you in perpetuity. Whether that's even investing $1,000 into doing your ICP research, or investing $1,000 into like getting a really good data infrastructure and tracking infrastructure. In the beginning, paid ads should really be the last thing that you do, because it's the only marketing discipline in which you invest into it and you don't really build a business asset. The only asset that you can say that you can build is that when you invest enough money into paid advertising, you then build a revenue generation system which can build you revenue, which can generate you revenue in perpetuity, for consistently as well. Like there'll be fluctuations, as there always are, but it becomes predictable and reliable revenue that you can use to grow your business short term and long term.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that system is of a lot of value to a business, but a lot of the times, in order to get there, it requires a lot of upfront investment and a lot of time. If you're a new business and you've got a little bit of money and you've not got anything else, but you think that you're going to run paid ads, you've got a lot more to lose. The risk is a lot higher. I remember I worked with a business once and they didn't have any other channels running, just paid ads. And I really tried, and we tested a lot of different strategies for a small amount of budget. They didn't have a big budget. It was like $2,000 a month. And it was really, really hard to get results. And that's because they were so reliant on paid ads in order to generate that demand for them. And it was a small budget, and there wasn't necessarily huge product market fit and all of these things. But it's like if they had email running, social running, they were doing SEO, they were filming organic content, and they had all of these like multiple different channels running at the same time. The beauty of omni-channel in marketing is that each channel has an effect on the other. So you'll find that if you're only running paid ads and then you go really hard on like social and content, your paid ads will perform better. And then if you add another channel into it, then all your channels will perform better because they all feed into each other, because there are multiple touch points within the user journey. So be very careful and don't rush into doing paid ads immediately. That was one of the things that I wanted to say before about like doing the ICP research, is that you want to make sure that every single penny that is spent on the advertising platform is spent to either get a return on investment in information or financially. And if it's not, then you are just lining these huge advertising platforms' pockets for no reason, right? So if you're not going to get a return immediately financially because it's lead gen, or you need to still figure out like what kind of ads are working and messaging, then you need to make sure that you've got the infrastructure set up in terms of creative testing, in terms of ad copy testing, in terms of like ICP testing, that you're collecting enough information off the money that you're putting into advertising. Do you know what I mean? So like, to go back to it
can be a black hole.
Yeah, it can be a black hole. Like you can really easily spend a lot of money on these platforms and not get a lot out of it if you're not careful. Like I was in Dubai recently, and I was speaking with a business owner, and he spent £500,000 on paid ads in 4 to 5 months and got zero return out of it.
Wow. Not even information.
Barely anything. To the point where he had assigned £1 million for that campaign, and he spent £500,000 and got nothing off the back of it and cut it and killed it. So it's like, be very careful and understand that you are giving Facebook, you are giving Google your money. If you are not getting a lot of information or more money back in return, then it is not worth it. Right. So make sure you've got the infrastructure available in order to get one of those two things, and ideally both.
Yeah, ideally both. So I guess, given your experiences, what trends are you currently seeing within the industry? I mean, we've got like AI, new tech, all these different things happening and changes happening to all these platforms. I guess, what are you seeing in the industry, and what's your prediction for the future, and how should businesses gear up for these changes?
So I was speaking with a mentor of mine about this, like literally a few weeks ago. Everything is going towards AI. So in TikTok, you've got smart creatives. In Facebook, you've got the introduction of Advantage Plus. In Google, you've got Performance Max and Demand Gen. There's a huge AI focus. Like everything is just moving towards letting the algorithm do its thing. The algorithm knows better than the advertiser. It's working with infinitely more data than the advertiser's experience. So everything is going towards that way. It poses the question as to will there be a need for ads guys like me over the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years? Maybe not. But with the death of one industry, there's a birth of another. So what I'd say is that businesses should be ready and be quick to adapt and quick to implement artificial intelligence in their business in whatever way that is, whether it's through building systems, whether it's through research or delegating work towards AI. They need to just start adapting towards it, because as an ads guy and speaking with a lot of ads guys in the different communities I'm in, we all know where it's going.
Yeah.
We all know where it's going. It's going to get to a point where a business owner can come in, just type in who they want to target, upload one product image, which then AI will build 10 product images, a product video, target the right people, and do everything all itself. So, like,
I
either
guess it will
get in
solve.
front or get left behind, basically.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what
I
I
guess
mean?
it will solve that issue of getting leads in, getting traffic and everything. But as we mentioned before, because there's so many systems when it comes to growing a business, I guess the expertise might move away from the specific how you get the traffic, but more on like how you convert that traffic. What we said before about how you analyze the data at each different step within the system, implementing AI at those different different areas. And so you can check for efficiencies, and you can get AI to then report back at what needs to change, because obviously there's still a human element when it comes to, I mean, definitely in B2B sales where you're having appointments, there's actual sales reps, and that's not AI. I mean, yeah, it probably will be in the next 20 years or so, but it's not yet. So at this point, you still got the human element there, which you need systems to build for. So I guess the expertise will shift into that direction.
Bro, definitely, bro. Definitely. Like, it's coming. And it's, to be honest, it's here. Like it is. And like I said, like the death of ads management will be the birth of something new. But the best way that, as an ads guy, if there are any ads guys watching, the best thing you can do is start to build out your skill set in other things outside of ads, which will not only like level up how much you can charge, it will not only level up your understanding as a marketer, like make you a better business person, but it'll also protect you for like the death of one industry. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, nice. So one thing I wanted to ask was, if you could go back to the 18-year-old Ali, and you could only take three lessons with you in the realm of business mindset or philosophy, what would they be, and why would it be those things?
So one thing that I wish I did earlier was get coaches and mentors for ads and like your skill set. Do you know what I mean? Like, even at this stage, managed all this budget, whatever, I've still got ads coaches that are at like a level above me who have managed hundreds of millions worth of spend and whatever. Like, always invest into learning and never think that you're good at your skill just because you've got some good results. Like, that's not it. Like, you could be getting 5 times better results if you just had the knowledge. So like definitely invest into coaching and learning and getting better at your skills from the jump and from early. That's like 100% thing. The other thing is just like patience. So it's like, even though like my career progression, especially in terms of responsibility, was quite quick, like my actual earning capacity only really scaled like quite rapidly after like 3 years in the business, after I left the first company that I joined and I did my apprenticeship at. So and like be patient and like stay consistent and focused in on one thing. So many people get shiny object syndrome, move on to this thing, move on to that thing. I got mates that have done it all the time. Like one week they're drop shipping, the next week they're doing FBA, the next week they're trying to do marketing. And it's like just like staying true to the path that you're on, understanding that good things take time, staying consistent with it, and then putting in the extra hours, doing the investment into back into yourself in terms of like coaches and all those things. Like that's like really like the recipe for success over a long period of time. So I mean, like if I was back then, I'd tell myself to obviously focus more, invest into coaches, and just really be as patient as you possibly can.
So that was a great episode. Thank you, Ali, for coming on board.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.